Hey, Josh, how are you?
Doing good, Scotty.
Eh, I've been worse. What can I tell you?
Another feeling, bud.
Yeah, we'll give it a minute or two here and get started shortly. All right, looks like we're ticked over to 7:03. That should be close enough. Um, all right, looks like my mic is on. Everything's on as it's supposed to be. Let's go ahead and get started here. This is the mm, public monthly meeting of South Carolina NORML. Happens on the third Tuesday of every month. All of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and not an open market for the sale or purchase or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. I'm just going to tuck that little thing back there because that kind of has the agenda on it as well as over here. And wait here a second as Kristen and Joey get in here. They missed our little disclaimer, but they probably could recite it about as well as I do by now. Um, no, we're going to get things rolling here by first off saying welcome to everybody that's here with us on the Zoom call. Welcome to anybody who might be watching this live on our YouTube live stream on our YouTube channel. And also welcome to anybody who's watching this as a recording later on our YouTube channel. Talking about YouTube, I do like to mention that we do not monitor the comment section of the YouTube live stream during our Zoom meetings. So if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave them down in the comment section below on YouTube, and we will visit the page. Basically, it takes 24 hours and so for it to render, and then we can visit it and view your questions and or comments, concerns, and if we have a good answer or response, we will respond to you. My name's Scott Weldon. I am the executive director of South Carolina NORML, the state chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. And as I mentioned a moment ago, this is our public monthly meeting. So, what we generally go through here for our agenda, we like to start off by talking a little bit about what's going on at national level and legislatively. We'll move on to what's going on state level legislatively. We'll talk a little bit about our chapter business and coming events kind of thing. So that is for the most part what we will be talking about this evening. Any questions or comments before I get rolling? All righty then. Um, Federal level, things are starting to shake a little bit. As some of you know, the what's known as the Joyce Act, or the Joyce Young, formerly named the Common Sense Cannabis Reform for Veterans, Small Businesses, and Medical Professionals Act, has been introduced. That is a Republican-sponsored federal level decriminalization bill. It's been introduced to remove marijuana from the Federal Controlled Substances Act, thereby repealing the federal prohibition of cannabis and making states the primary regulators of the plant. I do want to sort of clarify here at this moment, because I asked this a number of times in our national meetings. Uh, do does descheduling at the federal level have any effect on our state laws? And the answer is inevitably no. It has absolutely no bearing on our state laws. States can regulate cannabis at this point as they please, even according to this. I did hear someone mention to me at some point in a comment on Facebook, and I've never been able to verify it, that the South Carolina had 30 days to comply. Now, maybe if they would reschedule it, there might be a compliance issue, but if they deschedule, it's up to the states to regulate. Um, this bill would again deschedule from the Controlled Substances Act, creates explicit safe harbors so that licensed cannabis business can bank with financial institutions. Other provisions in the measure allow military veterans to access state legal marijuana programs, direct the National Institute of Health to facilitate more expansive research into cannabis and its effects, and direct the Food and Drug Administration, the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax and Trade Bureau, and the Department of Treasury to promulgate okay, I missed the order, regulations pertaining to labeling and regulating of cannabis in a manner that would be similar to alcohol, similar in quotes. What I am going to do here real quick is make sure I have a clean link. I'll drop a link here into the chat. This is the link over to the National NORML page on talking about this bill. It also then has a link in there. Let me just highlight to contact your legislators and let them know, you support this action, support this bill. Let's move this legislation forward. The other piece of federal legislation we're going to talk about briefly here is the GRAM Act, the GRAM Act, introduced by, again, Young, who's a Republican. I'm sorry, Young, who's a co-sponsor of the last one, which was the Joyce. Young sponsored the GRAM Act, introduced, and that one I do have a number on. That is HR 2830, also known as the Gun Rights and Marijuana Act. Y'all may have seen the post we shared on our Facebook page about that one. Got a lot of social media likes, attention, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to scroll through it just to kind of see what kind of response I'm looking at. Yeah, the page is taking its time to load. I'm not going to worry about it. What that bill is again seeking to formally protect Second Amendment rights of Americans living in states that have legalized marijuana. So again, it wouldn't do anything here for South Carolina at the moment, because we have not legalized in any way, shape, or form for medical, for decriminalization and or for adult usage. Under current law, those who consume medicinal or recreational marijuana are in legal jurisdictions face blatant discrimination by having their constitutionally guaranteed right to purchase and possess firearms denied entirely, regardless of its completely legal status in those areas. This directly impacts the constitutional rights of Americans in nearly every state. And I do not have a blog link to that one, but what I can share here is a link to an action alert, again, to contact your legislators in reference to this bill, letting your House members know that you want them to support this legislation. good luck with our South Carolina representation. but there you have it. There's the link for that one. Any, again, questions, comments, concerns on either of these, on the Graham Act or on the, let's go for it again, Common Sense Cannabis Reform for Veterans, Small Businesses, and Medical Professionals Act?
No questions here.
All righty. Thank you for that. We'll move on next then. Again, federal level is appropriations. The main push is expanding the Department of Justice's spending restriction, but I have a slate of amendments that we are pushing here at NORML National. Our Senate allies are skittish without having received the presidential budget, which only means that we have to drive in even more pressure. I'm going to go ahead and take a real quick peek at the memo on this one. Give me 1 second. There we go. This is actually pretty interesting. The memo on this has a list of the Senate appropriations requests in regards to state legal cannabis programs. I will again drop the link to that PDF here into the chat window. And you can kind of go through and read that at your leisure if you're able to save or open that link. But we'll run through just sort of the basics. Let me skim it real quick. Appropriations amendment currently in effect, the state legal regulation, medical cannabis protections, which is currently in effect. That's bipartisan. This provision restricts, we have somebody coming to the door, honey. This provision restricts taxpayer funds from being used to prosecute those who regulate, operate, or participate in either the state-sanctioned use or dispensing of medical cannabis. This policy has been validated by the Ninth Circuit twice since it went into effect in 2014. And that's one that implementation has had no substantive budget implications, and the goal basically is to maintain or expand the protections under that bill, we'll call it. So yeah, what that basically does is it restricts the use of federal funds from prosecuting what are within legal states, legal businesses, and so that is definitely helpful. It wouldn't be real helpful, I don't think, here in South Carolina. They're going to sleds going for you with their own money, or our own money, should I say. Also, there is blocking implementation of the DC legal cannabis regulatory frameworks. Again, currently in effect, it's bipartisan. It's a financial services general government bill, I'm going to say, committee provision. Whoop, lost somebody in the connection here. This provision currently prohibits the full enactment of DC voters to establish a regulated marketplace. So this is DC focused, not necessarily going to affect us here, but it is a good thing for the DC market. A previous budget request under the Obama administration's budget request of fiscal year 2016 sought to remove the removal of this rider. The Trump administration supported the rider in budget request through the year 2020. The goal is to get this rider, this provision, removed. Next is appropriation amendments addressing the emerging legal states of cannabis. The state legal regulatory cannabis protections modeled after bipartisan legislation. There's the Veterans Equal Access Amendment. There is the Fairness in Federal Drug Testing Amendment, and there is the Safe Banking Amendment. I'm going to move down a little further. Also, the Tribal Marijuana Sovereignty Amendment and the Protecting Emergency Research Amendment. So these are primarily proposals, appropriations requests. Again, I dropped a link for that memo, a request memo into the chat window. So I'm going to back out from that one.
Scott, do you mind dropping that link one more time? I had to re-enter the meeting and now I can't see it.
Yes. I realize, yeah, when you get disconnected, you kind of lose all those links. Let me drop that back in here again.
Thank you.
There you go. All righty. Let me just look at this in a second. A real quick comment here from National on this update, talking about the Biden administration. As a quick reminder, over the 420 weekend, the Biden administration doubled down yet again on their foolishness about decriminalization and Schedule 2. Excuse me, folks. I don't know if there's a hiccup in this. Let me just go. Give me 1 second. Find an open window here. All right, looks like a good link. I'm going to share this link if you're interested in finding out any more of the Biden administration and their shenanigans over the 420 weekend in April. And I'm going to also share one. I'm not sure why I'm not getting full links on these in my message, but these should be full links. This is again another action alert. Just again, follow up with the president. Tell President Biden, follow through on your commitment to expunge marijuana records. Last but not least, actually, there's going to be sort of two things coming. Or two things I want to mention. This one's coming from the Senate, unnamed at this point, but soon a Senate bill to end marijuana criminalization. Oh, that last one didn't send. Is soon to be announced. What used to be the Senate version of the MORE Act is no longer. It is now. Oh, geez, I don't have my little list here. Schumer, Wyden, and Booker are now sort of teaming up in the Senate to create a new version of what was the MORE Act. It will have a new name because now there's 3 drafters, sponsors on it. And so that was announced a little while back that should be announced shortly. And that's info from the Senate. And without any real documentation here, so I'm just going to sort of be vague here. There is some information out of the House of Representatives that that we're expecting to hear some news on the House version of the MORE Act within about a week or two. I don't know anything for certain more than that. I can't really say anything more than that, except for keep your ears open for some news on the House version of the MORE Act in the next week or two. You should be seeing us posted on our social media. So that is kind of both House and Senate marijuana legislation anticipated coming up soon. And when I say soon, where are we? The 18th of month, maybe by the end of May. Knock particle board here in front of me. Any questions, comments, concerns on federal level legislation right now before I move on to state level? Okay.
Nope.
We will move forward then a little bit and talk about not a lot to talk about. We'll talk about what's going on state level legislation. I think it was earlier today, may have been yesterday, that I noticed looked like an interview with Tom Davis in Fitz News, and basically stating that the S-150, the Compassionate Care Act, South Carolina Compassionate Care Act, is on the Senate schedule. First thing, kind of priority, I'm wiggling my fingers here, in quotes. I'm not sure how priority it really is. I'm making that up somewhat, but it's supposed to be one of the first points of business, and to get a vote in January of 2022. So, we're basically, at least state legislatively, we're pretty much done for this year. They're done. They had their gun stuff they needed to work on, and their abortion stuff they needed to work on, and their masks in schools and all that fun stuff to work on. That anybody who needs medical marijuana for their illnesses was not their concern or consideration at this time. So otherwise, none of the other proposed legislation in South Carolina ever got, as far as I know, acknowledged, or, well, acknowledged, yes. The House version of the Compassionate Care Act, H3361, if I remember correctly, it's not in front of me. I saw a mention of it in the news that that committee, the 3M committee that that bill was assigned to, their choice this year, instead of doing anything with it, was to sit back and watch what happens with the Senate bill and see if that moves forward. That was kind of pretty much anticipated, because Tom Davis has been carrying this ball for about 7 years now. And Herb Kurzman, who was the sponsor of the House version of it, this is his first year of sponsoring the bill. Again, from our perspective, we like Herb Kurzman's version better, because it does include the smokable cannabis and the selling of smokable cannabis flower at the dispensaries, where Tom Davis's bill does not. And Tom's been very clear on that. He took that out, or that is not in there, because of SLED, law enforcement. They prefer it that way. And at the same time, he acknowledges that he understands that, especially for conditions like PTSD, the efficacy of smoking is the best way for consumption. Excuse me. But, as we've been reminded many times, we pretty much live in a police state here in South Carolina. And, to try and move legislation of this type forward, you're going to have to, as a legislator anyway, and even as a citizen, beg, plead, and whatever you need to do to get law enforcement to do the right thing for the citizenry of our state. And that goes along for our governor as well, who's already said that even if medical marijuana legislation was passed, he wouldn't sign it. Although we believe we have the votes to override a veto. That's where we are today. And we do not have a gubernatorial election until what, I think 2022. So coming up next year, we can talk about that coming up. I promise you. We got a little while to wait. That's it, I think, then, for state level. The only other thing I wanted to mention on state level was that, there were a couple of decrim bills. That is really, we actually prefer the decriminalization bills. The medical bills are very restrictive here in South Carolina. Or the Compassionate Care Act is. We'd really like to, just for harm reduction purposes, see a decriminalization here in the state for of simple possession for an ounce or less, and turn that into a no fine, no time type decriminalization. And again, we will be talking about that type of stuff on our regular Wednesday cannabis conversations every Wednesday night, as we've been talking lately about our initiative petitions and our local initiative guide on trying to decriminalize at the local level, city by city, town by town across the state. Talking about legislation and moving toward our chapter business. I'm going to real quick start into chapter business. I'm looking at an old agenda here, so give me a second. Oh, this is an interesting agenda because it's from about this time of year, a couple years back. And it was talking about our chapter business and our tax filings as a 501c4. And at that point, I had that we were going to discuss any updates on our IRS filings and our state sales tax exemption or state nonprofit filings and all that. We have been thankfully blessed, I'm going to say, and y'all know I'm not, or most of you know I'm not a religious person, but I'm very thankful. We have Michael Knight on our board as our treasurer now. Michael is known as the hemp accountant. I think his website's thehempaccountant.com. He has gotten us all caught up. I was doing our tax filings and stuff in the past, and I'm not the guy to be doing that stuff. I drag my feet. I don't do it. I get anxious about it. And so I'm again quite thankful for Michael, who I don't believe is on with our call with us tonight, for getting us all caught up and actually have our 2020 tax filings with both the federal and the state done, taken care of. And that to me is a big stress relief, because that was one of the things that sort of prevented me from getting involved in some other things of the organization, moving forward with events and such like that. Next thing on that old agenda is, again, a very similar item you'll hear from me. We are looking for a new board member. We are looking for somebody to come in as our board secretary. Although most of our secretarial duties are now taken up by the recording of Zoom meetings, we don't need somebody to be keeping minutes for us per se. Our secretary position does do a lot for us as far as our member tracking, member value, and member acquisition type information and efforts. So that is also in one of the things I just got to throw out there. If anybody's interested, investing their time as a volunteer and probably, and helping us move this forward statewide, please reach out to me. Easiest way is usually through our email at normalsouthcarolina@gmail.com. Another quick comment similar to that is, I don't see them with us again tonight. Let me quick peek at our guest list here. I believe we may have somebody who's coming as a volunteer, as a volunteer coordinator. We're still trying to work out the details on that. So I won't get into too much detail, but I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks, we get them sort of settled in, and you'll see our volunteer programs start to heat up. A lot of our volunteers that we're going to be looking for are going to be hopefully trying to mobilize different pockets throughout the state to start operating and collecting signatures on the initiative petitions and getting things decriminalized across the state. I did talk to or send some information over to National. We've been asking the folks at the Sensible Movement Coalition in Ohio to draft our previous petitions. I'd like to see if we can keep it more in-house. So I'm trying to see if we can have National actually draft them for each town or municipality as we move forward with these. Again, I just kind of caught that in comments. Josh, thank you for noticing. Another little tidbit on today's news. I think I covered everything I was on that last bit. new t-shirts. I just picked them up today, just a few of them. We got a couple of dozen to start in some of the more popular sizes. And already I think on mediums, we're kind of out of, we don't do a lot of those. And so I didn't get a lot and they moved quickly. And I don't even have them on the website. Some of them are filling some pre-order type stuff. It is, let's see if I can turn around and do this without giving you a horrible photo of my butt or anything. There it is. Working to reform marijuana laws on the back. Did I knock out my sound? No, good. And our new logo on the front. They come in any color that you like, as long as you like the color black, which is for us going to really help our inventory. In the past, I was all about, oh, let's try and give some people choice in colors. And I think we had up to like 6 colors per size in some of them. And to try and stock that stuff to drag around with us to the different events and vendor booth stuff got to be a little cumbersome. And black's always a winner. Yep, I agree. Thank you. Although sometimes in the South Carolina sun, I'm not sure they can be warm, but yes, that way, I think what you do then is you just get the bigger sizes so they're a little baggier and they breathe more. But yes, very happy with that. Another thing that came in today, let me see if I can get one out of the pack. Again, it's the little things with the name change. We got some new stickers that came in. So we'll be getting these out. They're about 3" by 3" square. Web address on the bottom. So real simple, a big sort of what we call the service mark on top. That is when National rebranded last year. That was sort of their way to get something reminiscent of a marijuana leaf, but more approachable to, you know, the soccer mom and the older consumer and that type of thing, because there are actually a lot more. Well, the numbers have been growing year after year with a broader base of supporters. It's not just what people are, you know, considering the stereotypical stoners in mom's basement or garage, or and you know, I think about some of that stuff and that stereotype and like, well, hang on. Where were those guys that started the Microsoft and Apple? Oh, they were in their parents' garage creating computers and multi-billion-dollar companies. Yeah, them lazy stoners. Anyway, you know, I'm not going to play with the stereotypes anymore. Let me get back to the agenda. Thanks for the little sidetrack on the shirts and stuff. That was definitely some good news to share. On my agenda, I have it. I may have done a variation or something. I'm not sure. On my agenda, I talk about committee reports, but we don't really have any committee heads anymore. Our committees basically are our Communications and Public Relations Committee, our Outreach and Education Committee, our Event Committee, our Membership Committee, and our Sponsorship Committee. Again, as we get more volunteers in here and our volunteer coordinator, I am hoping to get some of those committees to start actually growing, become more effective. And talking about volunteers, I'm going to share with you all real quick our volunteer link. That I buried here somewhere. All right, maybe I'm not going to share this because I can't find it. I meant to keep it, save it somewhere. I had it handier and I did not. Oh, there it is. Gotcha. That should take you to the right place. Talked about committees real quick. And let me just kind of read where we are on the agenda. Oh, geez, back at that time, we were actually still doing, I think, in-person meetings. I had some of my marijuana-themed board games along, and we were having a stay-and-play board game night, playing, it looks like, Bongopoly. And we had a book drawing at that meeting. Fun times when we were doing in-person meetings. But coming events, and I have a little bit of, I don't want to say sad news. But news about what is currently scheduled as the July 10th South Carolina Cannabis Convocation. We had our board meeting last night. We discussed it as a board. We are going to need to postpone that event. It's within 2 months at this point, and I just don't think a July event's going to be as effective as we need it to be. The discussion is to be postponing it until I think it was the third Saturday in January, might be the second Saturday in January. I'd have to double check the calendar, but I think it was like right after the legislature starts again in January. Get my calendar moving. The second half of the current legislature should start, if it's my understanding, the second Tuesday of January, which this coming year in 2022 will be January 11th. We're talking about just rescheduling to January 15th or maybe the 22nd, but right after, and I'm thinking the 15th is going to be better. Right after the legislature starts, we're going to have the legislators back in Columbia. We should be able to then invite them to our event. And it's going to give us a little bit more time to find some nonprofit partners to get involved in the event, because the event is primarily going to be focused around the consequential harms that come from cannabis arrests, and our desire to decriminalize, whether it be through the local initiative process and the promotion of that, which we'll be doing at that event, but also if we can get it to move forward at the state level through the legislative process, that would be the preferable. South Ohio, which is where the Sensible Movement Coalition is based out of, they are at 22 municipalities, town, cities that they've decriminalized with the no fine, no time decriminalization process like this. So, and I believe, and Pennsylvania as well had done this, and I'm not sure how many they've got decriminalized. But when I lived in Pennsylvania, I watched some of the earlier stages of this before they got to the point that they're at now with, legalized medical use and the potential for recreational right around the corner with their governor and lieutenant governor calling for legislation to move forward on it. The lieutenant governor hanging marijuana leaf flags out his window at the state capitol in Pennsylvania. I don't see, McMaster and, oh gosh, I don't even remember the lieutenant governor's name because you never hear anything about her. I can't imagine her hanging a marijuana leaf flag out the window at the Capitol. We know what kind of flags they like to fly around the Capitol here in South Carolina. And they're not pot leaf flags. So that is our event news. I did want to make sure that Josh heard that because Josh has volunteered to help us with the audio. I'm old. The audio visual portion of it, a lot of the technical end of it there. But yeah, it's going to be. Don't be sad. We're going to get it, we're going to make it a much more appropriate time frame, I think. Because right now we're not going to get the attention of legislators and the folks that we need now that the legislation's done. I liked the idea of putting it in July originally, wanted to have it near 4th of July and a freedom type concept. Matter of fact, the original name was Freedom Festival, with freedom spelled FRWEEDOM. Had to have that, weed in there. But that also kind of, again, plays into the stereotype that's not going to win us any votes or any any real legislative friends here in South Carolina. So we want to try and convert, want it to be more of a serious event, a little bit more informative, educational, and good exercise of our First Amendment rights. Is kind of what we're looking for. We're not really looking to have it as much as I like the idea of a cannabis festival in South Carolina. Now's not the time to be having the tie dye and the flowers and the that jazz music. That jazz music just it brings in the unsavories. Sorry with my bad humor there. I apologize for that. So that is, it is sad. I agree. I'm kind of sad. It was not an easy decision. What made it a little bit easier is the sleep that I was not getting, or that I was losing, because I was sort of rolling around. As some of you know that have been tuning into our weekly calls, Zoom meetings, my health has not been real great through 2020, and even coming here into 2021. I've been struggling with some of my health issues, and it's really just sort of made me fatigue very easily, and I've lost a couple of weeks, and I say multiple weeks, just in being down and out and sick. And so for some of those reasons, I just don't feel I'm going to be able to pull it all together cohesively, and I don't want it to be a thank you, Vaughn, for visiting with us. I don't want it to be a half-assed event, and I don't want it to be an ineffective attempt. So I find it's just going to be a little bit better for us to postpone and to give ourselves a little bit more time to pull it together cohesively. And then, like I said, the timing, I think, is just much better for the legislative aspect of it. Let me check this real quick. It looks like I have a message. Excellent. Okay, I'll have to look at that later. Let me just real quick go back and look at any comments if I missed anything. Whose comment was that? Oh, Vaughn already left, but her stoner friends had higher GPAs. No, that's it. That's all I have for you. Let's see. Kevin, you will be getting an email message from our system in the morning that your package is being shipped tomorrow. So you will get your, actually I have to open it up. I think I have to print your label, name label for your membership badge and stick it in there. I knew I'd forget something. But anyway, it will get shipped tomorrow. You will finally get your membership pack. So sorry for the delay on that. But you'll get yourself a nice shiny black shirt. Well, not shiny, but a nice new member shirt. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? Looks like we're about 7:45, and I don't want to, I'm already missing half of Jeopardy. I like Jeopardy, sorry. I like to say it keeps me smart or sharp, but some days I just sit there and I'm like, duh. All right, nothing more in comments. Looks like we're good. I want to thank you all for joining me here tonight. Also, remember, we will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. for the South Carolina Cannabis Conversation. It is uncertain what we're going to be talking about. It looks like it's pretty much going to be open conversation and a little bit of the rehash of what's going on at the federal level this week. So if you were here with us tonight, you probably won't learn a whole lot new tomorrow night, but you're still welcome to come and join me because I will be there 7 p.m. Otherwise, we're there I didn't see him try to log in tonight, Josh, and I wouldn't have allowed him in because Bob and I just, he rubs me the wrong way, and apparently I rub him the wrong way. So it's not beneficial to the organization to have us bickering. So yeah, I told him he's no longer welcome, which wasn't the first time. We had this issue with him about 2 years ago, something like that. But I try and be inclusive. I want everybody to help, and we can use all the help we can get. But I just find that Bob has been a challenge for me. And I'll just leave it at that. But thanks for asking. Where was I here? Oh yeah, every Wednesday night and third Tuesday of every month for our monthly meetings. Again, monthly meetings pretty much just cover what we talked about, our legislative news for the month. And the Wednesday conversations vary. If you do need to contact me, you can almost always message me through our website, normalsc.org, or email us at normalsouthcarolina@gmail.com, or message through our more Facebook than any of the other social media. If you try and message me through Instagram or Twitter, I eventually find it, but I lose it sometimes. I'm like, where did I see that message at? Otherwise, I will see you all guys tomorrow night or soon. And thank you for joining me. Have a great